Okay, so what are the keto diet claims? Well, carbohydrates stimulate the release of insulin. And insulin is a hormone that drives fat storage. So therefore, if we don't eat carbs, we don't release insulin. And if we don't release insulin, then it forces the body to break down fat, and that breaking down of fat is what produces the ketone bodies. And as a result, the claim is that you're going to get this metabolic advantage over other weight loss methods. You're going to burn more calories, and you're going to just magically burn more fat by just taking away carbohydrates. Okay? In other words, it's basically vilifying carbohydrates. So let's do a quick fact check. Insulin alone does not drive fat storage. That's just part of the story, right? You have to have a calorie surplus, and I'm going to back this up with some research. The primary function of insulin is to help regulate blood sugar. Okay, so it's going to help keep your blood sugar levels in homeostasis. Your body's always fighting to be in balance, in homeostasis. So let's take a look at this graphic here. So you start with a normal blood glucose level at the bottom, right? Blood sugar. So because humans are periodic eaters, we eat every 3, 4, 5 hours or so for the most part in general, right? Your blood sugar level is going to drop as time goes by after a meal. So when that happens, you eat, obviously. Some of you get grumpy, right? You get symptoms of low blood sugar. So you eat. And your blood sugar increases as depicted by this arrow here, and you get this hyperglycemia, or your glucose levels increase. So that will stimulate the pancreas, the beta cells primarily, to release insulin. Again, insulin is a hormone. It travels from the beta cells of the pancreas, and it targets other organs like your liver and muscle tissue to do something. In this case, it stimulates, those of you who remember from biology, your GLUT4 transporters, right? And those transporters, their job is to take glucose out of the bloodstream and put it into the liver and muscles so that your blood glucose levels normalize, goes back to homeostasis, and the body is then happy. So it stores the food that we eat for later use, knowing that humans, once again, are periodic eaters. And we're going to eat again, so that energy is going to be stored for later use. So then what happens? So over time, you don't eat, right? You get low blood sugar, and then the pancreas release a counter-regulatory hormone. In other words, it works hand in hand with insulin. It releases glucose, and that does the opposite. It's going to now go, oh, your blood sugar's getting low. Let's put you back in balance in homeostasis. Let's stimulate your liver to release the stored carbohydrates, glycogen, into the bloodstream, so then you can now be in homeostasis, in balance, right? So this happens multiple times throughout the day as you eat. What determines whether or not you become overweight? If you consume excess calories. But just because insulin is stimulated does not mean you gain fat. Okay, and we've got some research studies to look at that. So Kevin Hall, he's at the National Institutes of Health. He's done a lot of research in this area. He conducted a metabolic ward study, and that's essentially when they put people into a ward of a hospital so that they can measure everything related to their bodily processes, including energy expenditure, how much fat they burn, and then they also analyze their body composition using the most accurate and sophisticated methods. So in this study, he put 17 obese people comparing isocaloric diets. And this is a very important point, is that the diets were the same number of calories, okay? And what they did was the subjects followed a high-carb baseline diet for 2 weeks and then switched to a low-carb ketogenic diet for 4 weeks. So calories and protein were matched so that they wouldn't be confounding variables. It wouldn't influence the results, right? They just wanted to analyze, do you burn more calories? Do you lose more fat on this ketogenic type diet? You can see the subjects also exercised. All food was provided. There was no access to other foods, and then the meals were supervised to verify intake. So here's a breakdown. The BD, which stands for baseline diet, right? You can see it's the same as the KD, the ketogenic diet. The protein was the same, and then carbohydrates on baseline was 300. During keto, it was the less than 50 amount that I mentioned earlier. And then fat obviously switched to a high. Here's what was found in this. And here's sort of a depiction of what the study designed. You can see there's a 4-week inpatient. So 2 weeks was used to adjust energy intake so that they were in calorie balance, right? And then you've got this here, 2 weeks on a baseline high carb diet, followed by 4 weeks. And then these little data points mean they were in the chamber getting measured. The arrows indicate their body composition was measured. And then the DLW, that's doubly labeled water. They were given that dose because doubly labeled water is a way of measuring energy expenditure. Okay, so the results. Insulin decreased on the ketogenic diet. Not surprising. Don't eat carbohydrates, don't release insulin. Not surprising. You also saw an increase of fat oxidation. Again, not a surprise. When you eat a lot of fat, well, guess what's going to happen? You're going to burn a lot more fat. They did see a small 100-calorie increase in EE, which stands for energy expenditure. But that only happened during the first week of the ketogenic diet, and then it normalized. Here's the thing. Fat loss rates were similar. So what they concluded was that there was no metabolic advantage observed with the ketogenic diet. You might see a slight increase in calorie burn that first week, but at the end of the day, you lose similar rates of fat loss. So no metabolic advantage. Now, you're probably wondering, well, it's too short. Okay, so there were some longer term studies that were done. Let me just review some of the other short-term studies that I was able to go through. And basically what the short-term studies that lasted up to 10 weeks showed, and here's where the big benefit of the ketogenic diet is. People spontaneously eat less on the ketogenic diet, and as a result, they lose weight. So yeah, does it induce weight loss? 100%.